How's it going, guys? My name is Stone, and welcome to these reviews, or welcome back if it ain't your first time here. Today, I'm going to be talking about one of my favorite psych albums from the 60s, Sagittarius' debut album, Present Tense, released in 1968 under the Columbia label. Originally, this band was devised by songwriter slash producer Gary Usher, who had originally shared a demo of My World Fell Down to a duo called Chad and Jeremy. That duo's decision to not record the song made Usher want to record his own version and managed to get famous session musicians such as Bruce Johnson and Glenn Campbell to help him complete the song. He eventually presented it under the band name Sagittarius, and they loved it and would eventually release it as a single, rising up to the number 70 spot in the Billboard Hot 100. With this success, Columbia wanted the band to tour, but sadly realized or discovered that Sagittarius was merely Gary Usher and a bunch of session musicians. Usher then made the effort to release an album under the band name, and in July of 1968, Present Tense, their debut album, would see the light of day. And I will admit, I love psychedelic rock and all that. Maybe I don't lean too much towards the sunshine pop stuff of the 60s, though I should, because I do think this album is like an ultimate classic when it comes to 60s sunshine pop. There's not really a bad track on this album, in my opinion, and its ability to keep such a pleasant yet ethereal atmosphere is largely due to the group's ability to use the studio to its full advantage, much like Sgt. Pepper or Magical Mystery Tour. Though this album is only 30 minutes or so, its track listing is pretty varied in my opinion, with some really good bubblegum pop stuff and a dash of like spookiness that adds some spice to this wonderful concoction of what I call sophisticated California psych rock, definitely far from the garage rock spectrum, if you know what I mean. Like, here's like the Sonics, and then here's, Sagittarius, very, what's the term, like audiophile level psychedelic rock, which I really do love. The first side, in my opinion, as well, is probably one of the best sides of psychedelic music from the 60s. And when I get around to doing a best sides of music psych rock, this will definitely be on there, the first side. So just a heads up now, so you know. The first side, as I continue to talk about, I do think it comes with, or all the songs sound better together, but even if you were to listen to these songs on their own, they're still fantastic. I just think the way the first side progresses from one to the other, and the flow in general is just perfect. So, yeah. It opens with probably my favorite song on here, if not one of my favorites, Another Time, which I think is just a perfect opener. It lifts the listener into, as the title implies, another time. I love the combination of acoustic guitar and the strings. They just really add a ethereal sound to this album, and it's, like I said, just perfectly sets up what's gonna come for the rest of the track listing. And this is also one I enjoy playing on guitar. Another Time is fun. It's in the key of E. It's like E, A minor. So it's fun. That's the main riff, of course, but just such a fun song. Very euphoric and innocent sounding until you get the verse about death. Then you could interpret that as you may, but I just think the song is just so beautiful. And with a lot of these songs, I will admit now, like, by the time you really find words to seriously understand what they're all about, not understand, but like, I guess, review it, it's already over. So like, it can be tough making your mind up for these songs, because I want to describe them in the best way possible, but like, at the end of the day, you just gotta listen to them for yourself. So check this album out before you listen to it. Anywho, second track, Song of the Magic Frog. An amazing song with a funny title. The lead vocal on the chorus just so serene. It's honestly, even though Another Time's great, I feel like the more songs you listen to in side one, the more convinced you are that it's just like pure gold on side one. So the progression feels so elegant and relaxing, and just, like I said, very euphoric sounding that kind of continues. And its magical atmosphere, as the title again implies, keeps the listener up in a psychedelic space. We then go into You Know I Found a Way, which is one of my favorite tunes on the album. I just love the gorgeous use of strings and bass, and that beautiful bass line in the beginning really sells it to me. And then you go straight from into the drum fill, and the first verse starts, and it's just like heavenly from that point forward. Such an uplifting track that really just puts a smile on my face. It also features a fantastic progression, as I said, that leaves me wanting a bit more, but I wouldn't put it down for being as short as it is. We then go into another song that has an amazing little intro with the flute. It's Keeper of the Games. It's just a very joyous and dreamy track that has, it sounds like some xylophone, but yeah, flute, xylophone, and acoustic guitar, and it's just, again, so beautiful how they mix all these instruments together to get, I guess, just to sound so pristine, you know, so sophisticated, which I love. And again, the harmonies and the melodies are just pure gold. It's like hard not to like any of these songs, in my opinion, just because they're so catchy, even if you maybe didn't like the instruments or, I don't know, the way it was produced. But yeah, it's just a great psychedelic pop number that just keeps this train rolling, you know? And then we get to the most psychedelic song on side one, which I really admire, Glass, which strays away from the cutesy stuff that I wouldn't say, I don't know, it's not as cutesy as it will get, but it's still, you know, kind of like very naive sounding. But then we get to this, yeah, swirling nature of psych that just really feels like you're getting pulled into like a whirlpool, which I admire, you know, if you're like, if you're baked enough, it'll take you there. And the vocals are just soaring so well. It's just so like grand and really could trip one out, you know, if they're under the right conditions, you know. Moving forward, we get to side one closer, which is like the total opposite of Glass. Would You Like to Go, which is probably the cutesiest song on side one. And I feel like I didn't like the song at first, but like the way it like grows on you, like that melody is just so good. Like it's hard to not like it, you know. Even if it's a little repetitive, I just think the way they go about it is great with the harmonies, where they both kind of say, "Would you like to go? Would you like to go?" And just, you know, it does a lot in under what, like 2 minutes, I think, probably like 2:30. But it really closes out the album well, especially with how it closes, I think, on a mellotron, which I really like. Just a little, you know, put more instruments in the album. The more, the better, in my opinion. They're like a harpsichord, I think xylophones. There's just so much going on here that I love. And yeah, side one, pretty perfect in my opinion. No criticisms here. Moving on to side two, we get the most popular song on the album, My World Fell Down, the one with Bruce Johnston. Now, I could see why most people would find this to be the best song on the album. I feel like definitely has the most like going on, I'd say, just because it was the first song they released before they even thought about an album. So it makes sense if the standard was a little higher, but yeah, I just think you can't argue, like, even if it's not one I go back to a lot compared to the first side, it's still amazing with the vocals. I think Glenn Campbell's singing on it. I could be wrong, but I know Bruce Johnston's for sure singing in the chorus. And the harmonies are just fantastic, and the progression of the song with the drums. I love the drum beat, like, that's just me kind of thinking on the spot. But if you know it, you know it, you know? And I'll bring this up now. I've actually reviewed the song before, probably better in the last video when I reviewed this record. But I honestly think, to compare the single version to the album version, I think the single version is better because that musical concrete part really adds another level to the song that, yeah, really makes it, like, in my opinion, like a S tier song. Even if maybe I've overplayed it for myself, I'd still say it's one of those like classic psych songs you should have on a hip Spotify playlist. But the album version, like I said, it's not too much different. They just erased that part and added a few more bars to the music. So it's still like a satisfying listen. I just think if I had to reach for one, if I wanted to only listen to that song on vinyl, it'd be on the Nuggets version. We then get to another song that had a questionable single release. I checked that out on your free time if you haven't heard it, but it's a little different because it also has another concrete piece. This one doesn't, though, of Hotel Indiscreets. Now, I don't know what the lyrics are talking about, so maybe I should have checked that out before reviewing it, but It has a very like quirky sound to it, which I do like. I used to think it was like one of the weakest songs on the album, but I really do like the beginning where they're like, "Where does everybody go to let down their hair?" Where it's like a very, I don't know, the melody's jumping around a lot, and when the drums come in again, it really kicks off, and then especially the vocals again, it sounds very like quirky sounding, like Sunshine Pop, a little cheese, but I think so good to listen, especially when the harmonica solo comes in. I feel like it gives it a more earthy feel. To quote Gigan's YouTube channel where he reviewed this album. But after that, we get one of my probably my favorite song on side two, "I'm Not Living Here," which just is so upbeat and so I don't know, I won't say charismatic, but it's just so fun to listen to. It's very again another song that puts a smile on my face, just very fun to sing along to. Great chord progression. It's just very and the song too. It's just verse chorus 3 times, so it's hard. You know, if you like the beginning, it's just gonna repeat over and over with different lyrics. So I think it's a. I don't want to say it's much of a change of pace, but I feel like it's like I said. I guess it feels more melodic rather than like studious. Probably the wrong word to use, but if you get it, you get it. Then we get to what I used to think was my least favorite song on the album. I do like it now. I've actually gained more appreciation for it through this review, but it's the song Musty Dusty. Now I used to think it was a little too schmaltzy for my taste, with the lyrics being about teddy bears and Bobo the clown. And I was just like, ah, whatever. But honestly, I think its simplicity and where it is on the album really works to its advantage. It helps the listener maybe appreciate the subtlety that a lot of this music has, though it's more apparent on the quieter track, of course, where there's acoustics and just more harmonies, of course. But I think that's harmonies is what sell California psych rock, you know? I mean, the Birds aren't from there, but you know what I mean? Something Birds-esque, like the Beach Boys, of course. But yeah, great song though, and I think it especially is paired well with this last track we're currently listening to, "The Truth Is Not Real." And I just think this song is like pretty freaking awesome. I hate to use the F bomb there, but I definitely like Glass, the most psychedelic song on side two, and a fantastic closer. Just very, like I said, dense, and the reverb is just so heavy on here. I love it so much, and the drum fills are just very fun, and I don't know. It kind of brings you back to the fact that this is still a psychedelic album, even if the melodies are super poppy and stuff. It's just, I don't know. This album is something else, and I absolutely love it. I'm glad I got around to reviewing this album. Now, before I go into how I discovered it, I'll just say my favorite side, clearly side one. Side two is still great, but dude, side one is side one. I hate to say it. It's like, it's on the same level as like a Beatles side of music, in my humble opinion. But let me turn this off real quick. I think there's like 10 songs on this album. I should know this. Let me see. I think it's 11. So I'll just do my top 5. Frick it. Top 5 would have to be Another Time, You Know I Found a Way, I'm Not Living Here, The Truth Is Not Real, and Glass. Because I think, yeah, those first 3 are just super catchy and whatnot, really stuck in my head, while the last 2 obviously just super trippy, and I love trippy psych rock. And I forgot where I first heard this album. I may have said this kind of the beginning or referenced it, but I remember hearing online that there was this like Lost Beach Boy album. I'm like, whoa, you know, me being a fan of Smile sessions and the Adult Child sessions, I'd find a kick out of this. But it was you know, not really the case. It was more just Bruce Johnson is on this Sunshine Pop album that sounds similar to Pet Sounds, and I do feel like it has that. Obviously, this came out 2 years after Pet Sounds, so it's maybe elaborating on the ideas that Brian already had. But I do think this album is up there, like with some of the best psychedelic rock you'll find. Again, depends how poppy you like your music, but I do think this is a vibe wherever you go. You know, even with the boys, you know, not just the ladies. But to show the pressing real quick, I've I just found this at a record store for like 20 bucks, and I'm super grateful for that because feels like, based on the material, I've never really looked it up on Discogs, but it feels like a newer pressing, not an original by any means, but I almost paid like 60 bucks for this album on Discogs because I was waiting so long to find it, and then one day I was just out, just rolling through records. I just happened to find it, and I'm like, holy shit, hell yeah. And it's funny too, the same place I found this record was the same place I found Millennium's debut album, Begin, which I'm kind of a fool for not buying. I feel like I should have bought it because the album is super hard to find. It was like only 25 bucks. Maybe it's still there, so maybe I'll take a gander, but I had to listen to the album a little more. Anywho, I'm rambling. Sagittarius, Present Tense, great album. Highly recommend. Probably would give it 5 out of 5 stars. Now that I've had plenty of time to really like listen to it. I remember getting into it during COVID, which doesn't feel that long ago, but it's been like 3 years, so I don't know, for me being like 23-year-old, it feels so long ago, but yeah, great album. Just check it out already. What are you doing? Why are you watching me? Album's over here, you know? But yeah, you should stick around though, because I plan on reviewing another psychedelic album that's going to be very on the opposite end of the spectrum, which I always like doing with my videos. Kind of like how I did with like Black Sabbath, then Moody Blues, or like, I'm trying to think of another good example. Maybe like Brain Ticket to Muddy Waters. I don't know. Obviously different ends of the psych spectrum, so stick around. Anywho, thank you for listening. I'll see you guys in the next video. Ta-ta, bye.